share the screen. So for all of you that have been on more than once, hold us accountable. Uh, we've got a few intentions to this program on the road to the conference. Somebody said this really well the other day. I keep thinking it was Barbara. For all of you, this is your program. This is our program. This is not mine and Vicky's. You all are a part of this. Why? Because every one of you you're giving up of your time, either because your company, it's part of what you should do for your metrics, and you decided to go that route, or it's what you're doing because you're chasing innovation, commercialization, and you're trying to make ends meet at the same time as you're trying to either commercialize by licensing or manufacturing, producing your innovation. So consider this yours. That's an open invitation to talk to us, to help us, remind us as we go. So there's two intentions on this conference, this training. One is to actually train and help you move forward through the process to make it fairly simple for you, because it's really not that complicated. Your innovation may be, but the process doesn't have to be. We may forget something along the way, but that's first one. The second one is your ability to network with each other. So whether that's SBDC advisor to SBDC advisor, an ongoing resource to resource, or innovator to innovator, as well as innovator to SBDC advisor. So we want you to feel comfortable with this, not nervous, open up, ask a question. A little bit of decorum would be great. You know, if we're messing up, laugh with us. As my daughter would say, Dad, if you're laughing and I'm not laughing, then you're not laughing with me. So I invite you to laugh with me. I don't want to laugh at anyone. But this is supposed to be something you can build your network as well. So after we train or before we get started, if we can get there earlier next time, feel free to invite or talk to each other. If you want someone's contact and they're willing to give it, that's great, okay? Because by the time we get there to the conference, we hope a lot of you know each other, and those that need to connect are already doing that, to where by the time you're there in person, all you're going to do is continue what you started. If that doesn't happen, then hopefully it happens at the conference. Because and again, I think Barbara was the one who said this, what you're doing is you're signing up for a long-term engagement with us. We want to help you ongoing. The exciting part of what we do is, since we've been doing this since 2017, we've got a variety of innovators at all levels, those that are brand new, as well as those that have been in the program for 3 or 4 years. We've got a couple of logos, if you will, in our background that we're leaving there on purpose. Our Encountering Innovation is the conference and the process of what we're doing. Our parents, if you will, our host is Pittsburgh State University, and then the National Institute for Materials Advancement. That's the lab that has 5 major science technology focuses that we're working with as part of our pay, if you will, to pay them back, giving back to Pittsburgh State. The other thing we're doing, what should be important to you, whether we call it block and tackle in the future or industry sprint, technology sprint probably makes more sense, but is we expect that with all of the Encountering Innovation innovators, once you've signed up, whether you participate in 2023 or you don't, you've signed up. So once you've signed up, you're part of this program, and we're going to work with you. The conference is what we do to have a moment in time to attract the tech scouts and to prepare and get you there and for you to have an engagement. That's just that moment. Other than that, the rest of it is an ongoing program and process. One of the big things that we believe is coming is going to be these block and tackles, where We will find a customer. I spoke with Lori Moncrief yesterday. She used to be with Defense Works. She's now with a venture capital program that she's helping to stand up for the country, her owner, and they're focusing on technology. And so it's very exciting. And I told her, I said, for example, Lori, I said, you could be the customer, and then you tell us what you're looking for at the moment that you're wanting to fund. And then we go back and we look at all of our Encountering Innovation clients, and we see that we've got 5 or 20. We invite the 20 of you or the 5 of you for this opportunity. It's to be quick, short notice, brief information, and then in 2 weeks, virtually you meet. So those are the kind of things that we're working on beyond Encountering Innovation. So it's more than just a moment in time that you're going to pitch. Okay. So anyway, I hope I've said that to the last group and to this group. After that, I won't keep saying that over and over. If I do, you can say, hey, Alan, you told us, we got it. So that's what we're here for, is to help you understand that it's more than just a moment. We want to really help you. Okay, so I'm going to share well, have we done everything we need to do then, Vicki?
Yes. Let
Okay.
me, hang on.
So what we may do in the future, maybe on the naming as we go forward, hopefully we'll get more and more of you. Right now we got about 20 innovators. We should have about 50 or 60 total. So as they start showing up for some of these, and we'll go back and try to tutor them up to catch up with you. But what we may want to do in the future is do something with the naming where everyone knows the difference, where we can try to build that connectivity. So if you guys have a good idea, share it in the chat with Vicki as we go, because I'm very much interested in you guys connecting. Oklahoma in 2018 did a very good job with their group, to where by the time they came to the conference, that group knew each other very well, and they started connecting and doing things. So that's what we're trying to do, is emulate the success they've had in the way they've put everybody together. With that in mind, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so you should be seeing as if I just clicked, I'll even do it for you, EI, Encountering Innovation. So when it first pops up, we've got it to where it goes, it's coercing you to go to the conference page. Instead of making our conference page, the landing page, we have it to where you can click on it, and then this is what you should see. This is probably what you saw when you first signed up. We're trying to make this the most important information without putting everything on there, because we've been where people have put everything on there, and then it's overpowering and it's too hard to read. So as you go through it, if you see stuff that is confusing, if you have a druther, I'd druther it have had an arrow, I wish, whatever, share those wishes with us to where we can get this back to our marketing team. Marissa, there's not a perfect way. If we shrunk this down, you could see it all at once, it'd be too small. So but as you're seeing stuff and you think of something that you think might help, we may not change it, but if we have enough saying something, there's a good chance that we would. So just giving it for food for thought. All right, so what we're doing is we have what I've called Bill in a Box training that's helping us. Bill Carey is our science and grant specialist, and he's the one who works with us through some of this training because of his background. He has background 7 SBIR phase 1s, I think 4 phase 2s, 2 phase 3s. He's worked with Missile Defense Agency, Army, and DoD. So he's done a lot of stuff, and yet he has his own company, Arc Technology. He's continuing to help others with SBIR applications as well as himself, and he's got other technology he's working on. So he's one of you. He just may be a week or two ahead of you. Okay. So what we're doing is we're utilizing Bill's training from the past, since he's not with us live right now, as we're not paying him. We're just being totally transparent with our program. We will pay him as soon as the funding turns back on. We expect to. So that's where we're at. So you can go just like I did here, and you're on the landing. You've gone from the landing page straight into the conference. If you're wanting to learn more about the matchmaking side, and we're going to cover that in the weeks to come, we just don't feel like right now it's necessary for you, or you can go to the tech transfer. When you go, this is the training, and what we've done, Marissa, who's working on this, has simplified this to where hopefully it's easier for you. The general overview you've heard either by someone inviting you and talking about it, or we talked about it last week. The quad chart and the BLUF are what we're covering today. The BLUF, we feel like, ought to go first, but it also goes second, and Bill tells you why in a minute. We're going to go first with it because we need you to get your BLUF ready, because next Monday, we're going to close the door on the first grouping of BLUFs, and we're going to publish them online, and we're planning to send those to our tech scouts. We want them to know who's in the hopper already, and then we want them to be able to share that to where we get different tech scouts beyond the main players that we see every time. We try to get more there. The reason why is because there tends to be an adoption rate, that I call it, of 1 or 2. It seems like visiting or extra tech scouts tend to adopt 1 or 2 technologies. So if we can get a few more folks there, online, virtual, or in person, then we may have a few more adoptions. That's not to say that you don't get socialized. That's different. Socialization of your technology happens as they see fit, but then they tend to hang on to 1 or 2 of these technologies for whatever reason. And so we try to get that adoption rate up. So you can click on these just like we can. So I click on the BLUF. Bill's going to start talking. This was created out of our Kansas SBDC.
Now I'm going to be talking.
All right, I probably need to turn him up, so give me just a second. All right, so he's
About the BLUF. Bottom line up front, which is description of your technology in just a few.
all right, Vicky, are you hearing it? Are we hearing it right?
Yeah, I'm on a conference.
I am.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can you
Oh, yeah.
can you mute Ann?
Yeah,
I don't think I can. Okay, there you go.
I got her.
So what does the BLUF look like? Well, it looks like, if you're familiar with the term 30-second elevator pitch, that's what it looks like. If you had just a few seconds to jump in an elevator and ride up with somebody, what would you say about your company that might open the door to a longer conversation? Here's a couple of key points. Number one, focus on the technology and the capabilities, not so much on the company in this particular instance, for the reasons we've talked about before. It's the audience, it's tech scouts. Two, it presents a good overview of what you're trying to accomplish in a very short period of time, because you don't have long. Remember, you're riding an elevator and it's going to end really quickly. Not focus so much about how something works. That's usually where the intellectual property is tied up. And the reason why you don't want to focus on that is because this is going to be, this document is going to be public. That means it's going to be out in the public. It could be used for a variety of things, but especially it's used to attract the right tech scouts to the conference. Be used to attract more than that, the general audience. The tech scouts they will also use it to socialize later on if they choose to socialize your company. So you want to have this really be right. So what does the BLUF look like in terms of mechanics. It's a short description. 100 words or less is what we require. There's an easy way to use Microsoft Word to check the word count, and we do, because if your BLUF is too long, it's not easy to socialize, and it doesn't fit in with other people that have obeyed the rules very well, and you haven't. So you end up taking up more real estate and making it harder to socialize yours. So if you make it longer than that, and we are helping with the edit, we will actually ask you we'll send it back and say, shorten this, it needs to be 100 words or less. I just have a quick example here in Microsoft Word. You go to the review section in Microsoft Word, and then go over to, you select it. First of all, select the BLUF statement as it shows here, and then go to review, and then over here to the third icon from the left says word count. You click on that, and this little pop-up is going to show you how many words. It says pages, words. See, this BLUF statement is 95 words, so it's just under the limit. Feel free to go right up to the limit, but don't go over the limit. So why finish the BLUF statement after you've done the quad chart? It seems kind of backwards, doesn't it? Well, here's my suggestion, and what we suggest. The quad chart forces you to dig through and list out the most important characteristics. Remember, you're not going to get everything in the quad chart. Remember talking about the quad chart. You're going to get the most important things. Those are the things that you want to drive the content of your BLUF statement. So then your BLUF statement really gets honed well. And it matches the other documents that you're going to be submitting. Now, just keep in mind though, as you work on the quad chart and the BLUF really needs to get in fairly early, especially for marketing purposes, so we can help draw the appropriate tech scouts and other audience members to the conference for you. So it is in your best interest to get this done early, get your quad chart done, and then you get your BLUF statement done and make sure that they jive and together they tell the story that you want them to tell. Lastly, I just want to show you an example of a company BLUF here for our Acme company. Think about what you've seen in the previous examples of the quad chart. Acme Company's BLUF example. This technology exists in minimizing the waste stream while simultaneously offsetting the cost by producing a combustible gas. A pyrolysis method with additional feature processes a flexible waste stream, which can include hazardous and medical waste without sorting. All pathogens are eliminated and any associated hazardous wastes are rendered inert. The result is a non-hazardous byproduct and clean syngas, which can be utilized directly or further processed within the system to generate electricity and heat. This technology is at a technology readiness level 8 and addresses the DoD requirement for waste energy. So it targets as much as it can reasonably, tucking in the most important pieces of what their company's technology can do. That is a statement that somebody who reads that and is interested in waste to energy will take a look at it and say, wow, I think I need to be at this conference, or I need to find out more about this company. That will give you a toe in the door to have a deeper conversation.
Okay, so questions on the BLUF or comments, thoughts? Anyone? Everybody good? Okay, so as we go forward, we're going to work, we will be utilizing your BLUF. One of the things Vicki has tried to express to everyone is that we want you to continue to change the number on your title, on your file name for your BLUF as you're working forward, and whether it's your BLUF, your quad chart, that type of thing. if you'll change the number as you have a change to it, it will make it easy for us to see where we're at with your BLUF or your quad chart, your information paper, et cetera. So as you change it, if you'll change that number, let us know that you've got an updated one, and then we'll be able to see, we can see where we're at, what we're pointing to now, and we'll know what to point to change. Okay. Next, we're going to the quad chart. You should have your information in your folder.
The one that you want to start with is the quad chart. Quad chart is a basic summary of what you want to communicate, the most important aspects of your technology. There is not room for everything in a quad chart, and it can be really, really frustrating. But it helps you determine what is most important to communicate. So as you look at this, I'm going to go through a general form, and then I'm going to go through some examples. But it's really important that you please leave the fonts alone for consistency with other companies that are at the conference, and also just so it's readable, because these documents are going to go on to people. Not like this one company, they actually sent me a quad chart and they said, I didn't have enough room, so I just shrunk the font until I could get it. And they had like a 6-point font with a page with almost no blank space on it at all. It was horrible to read. I'm going to cover the specific chart that's needed for the Tech Scouts. You know, when somebody asks you for a quad chart, the first thing you need to ask is, what information do they need? Because quad chart just means a chart that's split up into 4 parts. And they can be used for all kinds of things. So for the purposes of this conference, let's pull up a blank quad chart that's formatted for what we need in order to be ready for the conference, so that the Tech Scouts can pass this on. At the top, you're going to see a place for a logo. That's really helpful starting out. Just start to get people's attention, and helps them to distinguish your company from another company. Then beside that, you're going to have contact information. This information is going to be not just anybody in your company. This is going to be the single point of contact for your company. What the Tech Scouts are looking for, and this varies from person to person, but in general, they want a single communication link to your company, at least for now. Somebody that will gather the questions from Tech Scouts or the information they need, gather it together from the company, and then reply back to them. Because it can be very confusing and frustrating when you start getting 3 and 4 different conversations going along with the company, going to the company, between the company and Tech Scouts. So then over on the top right-hand side, you'll see a title, which should be rather short. And in order to be consistent, once again, just leave the font alone if you can. Don't be shrinking it very much. Then that title should be descriptive, but not too long. So, okay, now we're going to go over to a fictitious company called Acme. I'm going to show you what it actually looked like. At the top of their quad chart, you're going to see their logo, their single point of contact, and then the title of their technology. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth between these 2 slides to illustrate what I'm trying to explain. So let's start with quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 actually starts out by a description of the technology, not the company, but the technology, and the most important pieces about your technology. And just as a side note, when you get your draft copies back, you're going to see sometimes there's not very much information in these fields. Sometimes there's overruns down into the text boxes in the lower fields, and it looks like a real mess. But please just bear with us. Start editing on the upper parts of the chart. And once you fill in the information up there and decide what you need to say, and you shrink what you're communicating to fit in the text box, and you'll easily see the ones down below. So just bear with it, even if it looks messy. So we start out with a one-sentence summary, one or maybe two, that gives an overview of your technology. Just the broad scope. And then a descriptive graphic can go in there if you have one. Not just any graphic, but something that really kind of shows the essence of ballpark and what you're doing. That can be really helpful. It makes your technology stand out. We've actually had tech scouts call us back and say, hey, I'm interested in that company that had that picture of this on there from last year's conference, and who was that? Sometimes pictures can make that much difference. So between that picture, that 1 or 2 sentence summary, and just looking at your title, the reader should be able to understand very quickly what this technology is. Then underneath that, some basic bullet points. I would start, first of all, whittle down what you think are the most unique, critical things about your technology. Why is it better than competitors? They have new features to an existing product. What special things does it do? And this is really important to emphasize. It's not the special sauce of how to do it. That's your IP. That's typically how you're doing it. What you're doing is not typically as much IP. So then I would, once you whittle down your list, I would go back and think through what is my strongest point for the specific audience that I am anticipating. It's a Department of Defense Technology Scout. What would probably be their most interesting aspect? And it's important to know what you really want to communicate here is not necessarily too deep into the specifics, but in just about their application. But in general, what are the characteristics? If you were explaining to somebody, here's the key points of what we do. So now let's flip over and we're going to look at our Acme example. So here's our 1-sentence summary. It talks about minimizing waste stream and using the byproducts off of it to generate electricity and heat. So we have a picture that looks rather descriptive of some kind of a system. We don't have a lot of detail here, and we don't necessarily need that. But, and we realize this is probably an exaggeration, but basically it's saying, hey, we can put any kind of feedstock into this thing. An important point, we don't have to worry about what kind of waste is going in there and having to sort it. We just throw it in there. And the output is non-hazardous. It renders everything that goes in there inert. It breaks it down into things that we don't need to worry about. Produces clean syngas. Depending on the waste stream, you can get different volumes of that. It's also going to produce some char that comes out the backside as well. It's a net producer of energy, so it actually uses some of the gases coming off of there to run that heating in the system. So it operates as a net producer of energy, and it kills pathogens and gets rid of hazardous problems, hazardous materials, even hospital waste, which can be a big deal. So that's kind of an example of the sort of things that you want to communicate in a quadrant. Notice this is just generally what it does. That becomes important. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit later. So now we move on to quadrant 2. What we want to show here under past performance, the technology in the company, mostly the past performance of the technology. Sometimes the company will feed into that, but remember, the tech scouts are predominantly looking at this technology and whether it's relevant to them. They don't really care as much at this point about your company. It's the technology that they're evaluating. So what has it shown? What has already been demonstrated? It's not really so much about things about the company, as I mentioned, but there are relevant things about the company, maybe background of your company. Maybe you're working on a technology that the fact that you spent the last 5 years working in another area, and now you've seen how that applies to this new area, that could be really significant. Or it could be other related products. If you want to communicate the status of your technology, special features, some demonstrations, if you have some simulations about it, that's what you would want to put here. So you're backing up some of what's been done. And especially, I would say, put your strongest points forward again. I would put the technology points at the top. And then if you have room down at the bottom, go ahead and you can add a bullet point or two about the company. But the company is not really that significant at this point. So now, now we're going to move on to quadrant 3, which is the top right hand. What is the relevance to the combatant command or of the need? This may change, depends on which conference you're talking about here. For our Encountering Innovation conference, it would be combatant command, tech scouts from the different combatant commands, which you can look up. And I've talked about in the previous video. They're your primary audience. There are others in the audience as well, but that would be your primary audience. There is opportunities that they have, that they share about as much as they can about their needs, and so we're targeting those areas that they have mentioned to us as needs. They talk to us as needs, and you can find charts on that. Talk more about that another time. For other conferences,
Okay, so I want to make sure you know where the combatant command common capability needs are. Has everyone found them? Juan, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling right now from my side, like all this, obviously, I think I will need like some, I'm feeling everything, so then I can forward everything, but I think that we have most of the things. Probably past performance will be the only thing that I'm still struggling. I mean, we have already customers, but not with the government, so. Okay.
So I want to make sure we just added this or placed it someplace. This page, depending on how you have your view set, you may see more of it or less of it if yours is larger. But below here, we've added we tried to name it in a way that everybody will just, if they don't remember the name, they'll know the DoD needs list. So he's talking about that. When you go there, it's actually on the defense marketplace. It's not necessarily easy to find because the defense marketplace has a lot of information. But the idea is that the combatant, this may be too tiny for you to see, I'm not sure. But this gold line at the top are the combatant command, or as they call it, the roll-up category. So you see there's US, AFRICOM, CENTCOM, and so forth. On the side here is your technology category overall. So there's cyber, C2, C4, cyber, and then the subcategories for each of those out of that major category. You keep going and you'll see domain awareness, force protection, power and energy, all the way to the bottom. So the idea is, if you go back to here and you click on DoD needs, this is in our, if we go all the way back, we've gone from clicking here to click the tech transfer training. And then on this page, this is where we got Bill in a box. Bill will tell you everything you need to know if you go through all of these. And that's what we're going to do 1 week at a time, live interaction, asking you, answering questions. But that DoD needs list is right here. The TR,
Again, can you go again from the first page? Where did you went?
yeah, so I'm gonna go all the way out. I'm clicking on encounteringinnovation.com.
Yeah.
So this page, this pops up to shortcut us to the conference page for now. That will go away after the conference is over. But for now, we can just click right there and we go to the conference page. This is all the information about the conference, including registering or paying for the hard cost. Our soft cost, us working with you and all that's part of what we do to work with you. The cost that they have to incur, that's what this is. So that's passed on to everyone. Many hands make for light work. Why I should attend. But up at the top then, these are the shortcut buttons that you need to get to certain places. You want to see about the speakers, etc. So we click on Tech Transfer Training. That takes us to the Encountering Innovation Tech Transfer Training. This is basically what I call, or what we've been calling, the road to the conference. So general overview, quad chart, which is what we're training on right now. The BLUF will go into the information paper, pitch, etc. But on the quad chart, what he's talking about right now, he's referring to this DoD needs list that you need to be someplace on that list. So can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you press on it, where you're really going is we're shortcutting to the Defense Innovation Marketplace and a bunch of clicks to get there. So instead of telling you how to get there, we just shortcut to it. But this is their combatant command common capability needs. So they've got classified and unclassified. These are unclassified, open to the public. Anybody can read it. You go down through here, and the idea is you need to find someplace that your technology fits. We've used Ann's here again, so I'll pick on Ann for a second. With Ann and her technology, there's a sensors and radars. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. You go down and
So we provide large scale metal 3D printing technology.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm guessing weapons can be, but yeah, cybersecurity definitely will not be. But
okay. So if you go down through here and you're looking at like force protection and medical, what is it you say you do again? It's 3D print.
yeah, metal 3D printing technology. So we provide them the 3D printers that produce like very large metal structures, so we can build all the way up to rockets.
Okay. So now, is this something that you're providing like on the field, or is this going to be someplace? Is this for portable?
Yeah, so we sell the printers and then they can produce several parts. And yeah,
Okay.
so that's basically what we're trying to sell to either Navy or Department of Defense.
Okay, so when you go through here, then you'll probably find, I don't want to take up the time right now, but what you'll want to do is look for where they're showing that for maintenance, portable maintenance and that type of thing. Look through here. I don't know that there's a keyword search that does that for you. I wish there was, but you can look through here and find certain things that operations and mission support is my best guess for you. If you go into this section, as you go through here, you might find that. If you don't, find your best guess.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what we recommend, and that's part of what Bill's talking about. As we do this, as he comes back on, we will end up with, we will allow up to 20% what we call wild card. We can't find it. Bill can't find it. He goes, I know they should have it, but I don't know. As they tell us, we don't know what we don't know. So up to 20% of our clients that are pitching can be a wild card. We can't find them on there, but Bill thinks, based on my experience, it should be a good fit. Somebody, we may even reach out to some tech scouts and ask them ahead of time.
Okay,
And
Good.
Juan, you can also, you've got a good team of tech coaches in Bijou and Dana and Lizette, and they'll be another good resource for you as well in looking at that and helping to determine where the best fit would be.
okay,
And I'm not trying to get out of my swim lane too much, but I have casting experience in DoD supply from a business point of view, Juan. And if you need to contact me, you know, like I am aviation maintenance, so, you know, I could see a need for field expedient maintenance in part generation. So if you, so if you want to contact me, Mike McBride with Borsetta, I'm sorry, Title Chain. Go ahead, and I can probably give you a list of things that would be a good fit just based on my prior other experiences.
So
Oh,
Mike,
thank you.
that's perfect. What I would say is, why don't you click on the chat and reveal your
okay.
information? And this is the kind of stuff that we're hoping that happens. So where you guys can start working and learning from each other and building those connections. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, we'll keep Bill going. He's probably getting tired of sitting there in one spot.
That might be more of a specific audience. For example, space conference, this will actually relate to space relevance, different technologies that would relate to, say, for instance, some might be software for monitoring location. Others might have to do with launch capabilities, other where comm systems, communicating between satellites. Those are all space technologies, but they are, in general, different categories associated. So, and just remember, in quadrant 1, I want to refer back to, this was about what does your technology do? In general, I mean, in the specific uniquenesses. Now, quadrant 3, this is an important point. What does your technology do to solve a problem for the customer that you are going to be speaking to? And again, I would go through, summarize what you think are the most important points, then look at them and say, what are the strongest points about this? And that is a subjective call based on what you know, what you think you might know about the situation. Maybe in a situation where you're adding a new capability that is really a game changer, that's way more significant than the fact that maybe you can do it at a cost level that's, you know, less than something with a lesser technology. Their main focus is going to be capability, and maybe secondarily the actual cost of the capability. I don't know what it is. So now let's flip over and we'll go to our acting example here. So looking back in quadrant 1, these are general categories of what we do. Now, in quadrant 3, why would this be important, this technology? Well, it's self-contained and it's self-operating processing of waste. It is a net producer of energy. That means, and probably could flesh out more here, it does not require a lot of its own fuel or power. So if you were to put this in a more forward location, wouldn't have to worry about a convoy bringing energy to it, because it's going to make its own energy after you get started working. Similar to a car, it takes energy to start your car, but after your car is started, it actually replaces that energy and makes more. Gets rid of hazardous waste, especially it could be brought out a lot more You've got waste materials, food, and other things that become a big problem. They also have to be trucked and moved around from forward locations. It's a big deal. The fact that this fits in a standard ISO container, that means there's no special shipping logistics, so they can just put this into the stream of things that they need, wherever it needs to go, and it fits right in. So this is a basic example of the kinds of things you're going to be pointing out in quadrant 3. And now we're going to jump to quadrant 4. Let's look at the questions that related to that. First of all, TRL. TRL, that's a number that's based on your assessment. When you're applying, there's actually more rigorous definitions, and you should look those up. We have information on that. But in general, TRL is from 1 to 9, technology readiness level. And that indicates very quickly how far you are along. Technology level 1 would be, hey, I have an idea, maybe I scratched it down on a napkin. Technology level, readiness level 9, I'm already producing it commercially. You can just go order it and buy it. Breakpoint is about between 5 and 6. 5 would be demonstrated some critical parts of it, but still it has to be in a lab environment control, can't really handle rain or anything like that, can't really be used in a relatively similar environment to how it would be used. And a 6, it would be more tested in a relative environment to how it would be used, and basic functionality, but not fully packaged, and certainly not a final product. So gives you an idea. Be modest about what your technology readiness level is. It really looks bad if you exaggerate what it is. So I've had people say that they're at TRL 8 to 9, and they were really only at about 4. I've heard tech scouts say, wow, they didn't even understand where they're at. That looks bad. So next, we're going to look at scaling. Well, actually, before that, the next line, or a couple of lines underneath the TRL, is just a sentence or two of justification, bullet points of justification. Why did you pick that TRL? Just say it. I picked a TRL 5 because we demonstrated some critical parts, or I demonstrated a 3 because I'm at this level and I've done a few calculations. I haven't simulated it yet, but I'm headed on, I'm working on that. Just to give an idea of what the tech scouts want to see is that you're moving. You're not stagnant. You've got stuff going on. You're in the process of making things happen. So now we're going to move into scaling considerations. Now here's a question. Just think about this in a general sense. What makes sense as far as how somebody would want to scale this? Maybe I've got a little tiny benchtop generator, but I would want to scale this to go up into an ISO container. Maybe I have something that fits in an ISO container, or wouldn't even fit in an ISO container, that they would really want to be portable, man portable by 1 or 2 people, or smaller. Or how is it going to scale? Is it going to be bigger, smaller, lighter, faster, cheaper? What's it going to do? And if you have it, you can give it at least a rough order of magnitude, the cost projections here of how much you estimate it will probably cost. Do that. Then we're going to talk about timeline to market, both with and without financial assistance. This does not mean that they're expecting you to develop this on nights and weekends on your own time for nothing, And you're gonna duct tape it together and somehow make it work with no resources. The idea behind this is you already have a plan. What are you doing? If you did not, without financial assistance, more financial assistance, how are you going to get this to market? What's a reasonable timeline? What would it take? It'd take probably maybe 2 years to finish developing this, and you can say here too a little bit about it, just briefly. Are you working on a small business innovation research grant or contract that you've submitted or that you're working on? Or we have some early investors that are planning on taking us up to a certain level. You can give just a brief idea of that. Then with financial assistance, a common question that the tech scouts would ask would be, how fast we can move this thing forward if you had X number of dollars or something like that? Or you say 2 years. I know an application what really needs it in less than a year. What would it take to do that? Those are the kinds of questions that you want to just pre-answer before, as much as you can, before you even present to them. So these are the kind of things that we're going to look at. Now let's flip to our example back here in our acne example. So we got a TRL 8 in this example, and we demonstrated on a small scale. So that's their justification. It actually has a working pilot, but it's not actually scalable necessarily to really big systems. Maybe what we would want to do is to be able to gang these together, and actually they think they can gang them together here. So their scaling consideration is that they have a container size self-operating system that, in order to add more capability, they would just put them side by side and link together. And here's a rough idea of a cost for individual units. So without financial assistance, SAR is currently in production and available, low quantities, but with $1 million of investment, we could ramp this up very quickly. That gives an idea of what you have here, what you're wanting in this quadrant 4. So if you look at the broad scope of this acne quad chart, you can see really quickly, just looking at the title and even basic quadrant 1, I have an idea of what this technology does. Quadrant 2, I have a general idea of what they've proven so far. Quadrant 3, here's why I should be interested in. Here's some things, and sometimes they're really obvious, sometimes they're not very obvious. Here's why I think I could do what they could do for me. And then as we look at quadrant 4, here's where they're at in their technology, how fast they can move forward, what they can do to make it smaller, bigger, faster, lighter, cheaper. So I have a pretty good picture of this company in less than 5 minutes of reading this chart, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I can get a pretty good handle on this company, how this company what it has with its technology and what I could do with it.
Okay, so we're hitting the top of the hour. I want to pause, and he's basically, Bill's done. So we want to thank him. Thank you, Bill, for being here today. A couple of things that I want to point out that he doesn't say that he may say in another training. I know we've got him in another one. I'm going to go look at those. But be careful not to use relative terms. And I'm not talking about your uncle or your sister or your brother. I'm talking about stuff like small quantities, quickly. We can ramp that up quickly. Okay. Your quickly could be, in my mind, I'm thinking 6 years. You give me some money, I can go real quick. I can cut that in half. That's 3 years. They may not, you can be totally on two different pages. So try your best to pay attention. So you tech coaches, watch for that anywhere. You need to be specific. They don't know what's in your mind. You help them because this is a collaborative process. This is not a judgmental process. So we want to know specifics. So try to stay away from small quantities. Well, what's small to you may not be small to Tech Scout. They may need three of these and you've got 200 and that's your small. So that's just a tidbit on this as you go forward that that I didn't catch him saying. And it's not fair. He's not here. He's in the box. But I feel like that's something that should be said. With that, I think we're done. I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. If you have something you want to say or ask, because we're 2 minutes in overtime, and that's one of the things Bill really tries to keep away from. So I'm going to open up to you. Everybody's just happy and smiling. Okay. Well, if that's it, then we should be done for now. We will continue this next week. I've been talking about the matchmaking. Rick Slater is starting his part and working. He's right now he's volunteering with us because we can't officially pay him, but he's working on getting started on some stuff, working with us on the matchmaking, and we're looking forward to some giving you some updates that will be productive for you as well. Okay, I guess that's it, Vicki.